math for you. My name is Nikhil, and I'm here to help you better understand how to solve multi-step equations with the distributive property. First off, what's the multi-step equation? You might ask. A multi-step equation is an equation that requires multiple steps to derive your answer, such as 4x plus 2 equals 10. How do we solve this though? What we want to do is isolate the variable. And to do that, we must do the inverse of what's happening here, not opposite, inverse. So what we would do is we would subtract 2 because the inverse of adding is subtracting. And then we get 4x equals 8 because the 2's cancel out. And then what's the inverse of multiplying? That's right, dividing. Because 4 is multiplying by x because 4 is the coefficient of x. And that means that the number multiplying by the variable. So you get x equals 8 over 2 at 8 by 4, and then that means x equals 2. So now, let's try and figure out what the distributive property is. The distributive property is a way of simplifying an equation. And let's say you come across something like this. 4 times the quantity of x plus 2 equals 16. How do we solve that? What we would do is we would see this 4. That means that's multiplying by everything in here. And what we would do is distribute 4 among this. So that means 4 times x plus 4 times 2 equals 16. 4x plus 8 equals 16.
What do you say?
Now what you need to know how to say it. So the way you're saying it is crucial. So what you do is see this number? That's multiplying by the quantity of everything in here, and that equals 16. So we would say 4 times the quantity of x plus 2 equals 16. Easy. Now, let's say you have a coefficient of x already in the parentheses when you start. 4 times the quantity of 4x plus 5 equals 68. How do we do that? Well, we'd multiply by the coefficient instead of multiplying by x. So we would get 16x plus 20 equals 68. That means 4 times 4x, 16, plus 4 times 5 equals 20. And then we have an easy multi-step equation. And then our answer is x equals 3 because we subtract 20 from both sides and divide by 16. We get x equals 3. That's also there. So now to these problems up here, I want you to write those down and bring those into class tomorrow. Now if you haven't finished writing them down, I want you to pause the video and then resume it when you're done writing. Now that we've covered positive numbers, let's try doing this with negatives, shall we? To do this with negatives, it's almost the same process, except, see this table? You need to memorize this. A positive and a positive makes a positive and a negative makes a negative and a positive make a negative, and 2 negatives make a positive. So we get negative 4x, negative 4 times x, but except you're subtracting 20. How do you get that? That's easy. Negative 4 times 5 equals negative 20. And then, what happens if we have a positive and negative? That's right, you get a negative. So, we subtract 20. And then we have an easy multi-step equation that we can solve. We add 20 to both sides, we get negative 4x equals 48. Divide by negative 4 and divide by negative 4, and we get x equals negative 12. And one thing is, if you have a negative in the denominator, you cannot have that. So if we have 1 over negative 2, that's wrong. Now, what we do is we just move the negative up to the numerator. And we get negative 1 over 2. So now, write these problems down, and if you haven't finished, pause and write these down. Okay, so now that we've finished that, let's try doing fractions. Now, this part is tricky, so you might want to pay attention. So, let's say we have 1/4 times the quantity of 3x plus 3 equals 15. Now, I don't think anybody likes fractions, so let's try to get rid of that. What we do is we make these giant parentheses around the problem, and then we take the reciprocal of this fraction. Now, what's a reciprocal? A reciprocal is the opposite or inverse of a fraction, or anything actually. So that means we switch the denominator with the numerator, and that means 4 over 1. And then what we do is multiply everything in here except don't multiply by this, everything in the parentheses. Leave that out. So we do 4 times 1/4, which equals, that's right, 1, 4 times 15, which equals, you're right, 60. So 3x equals 60. And they're done. Voila! There's no fractions. And we have an easy multi-step equation. Subtract 3 from both sides, and then divide by 3 from both sides, and we get x equals 19. So now, see these problems right here? I want you to do those, and then pause it right here, finish writing them, and resume when you're done. Okay. So now, let's say you have a fraction in the parentheses, like here. 2 times the quantity of 2x over 7 plus 2 over 3 equals 5 over 3. To do that, you need to find the LCM, or lowest common multiple. The lowest common multiple is the number that all of these go into. And see this? We don't need to write that as a fraction, but you can if you want to make it easier for yourself. You can just write it over 1. So now that we've done that, we make giant parentheses around this problem, and we multiply it by 21. And make sure that you multiply everything here by 2. So what we would get is 21 times 4x over 7, remember, 2x over 7 times 2, plus 21 over 4 over 3, plus 2 times 2/3, equals 21 times 5 over 3. Now we don't multiply that by 2 because, that's right, it's not in the parentheses. And that equals 12x plus 28 equals 35, and we can solve it like any other multi-step equation. Subtract 28, and then divide by 12, and do that to both sides, and we get 7 over 12. Now, let's see if you learned something from this. Try and do this problem. Okay, you should get x equals negative 1/3. Okay, well that's it. I hope you learned something, and that's all, folks.